Am I the butthole for not forgiving my son even though my other son has? I'm going through some rough times and I don't know what to do. My wife is a big fan of this website and she suggested I ask for strangers' advice as you people are not biased. English is not my first language, so please forgive my grammar mistakes. Also, the names were changed for privacy reasons. I have 3 sons. Julio, 35. Peter, 32, and Luke, 30. I had the perfect family. The boys grew up close, had a happy childhood, graduated in college and were all doing well in their careers. Everybody was out of the house and me and my wife could spend our days working part-time on our business and then basically doing our hobbies like traveling, gardening, dance class. My God, the dance class. I can't believe how much I actually missed that, which my wife initially dragged me into. Everything was perfect. That was until we found out that Luke was having an affair with Peter's fiancée, Maria, 31? That was 5 years ago, and ever since I haven't spoken a word to Luke. There was less than half a year left for Peter and Maria's wedding when Julio walked in on Luke and Maria. Julio took a hit that day. He had a panic attack and puked all over my house. When I got home, Luke was desperate. I thought it was because his brother was sick. That was until Julio finally managed to stop crying and apologizing and told me what happened. Julio apologized so much that for a second I thought he was the betrayer. I told Luke to get out of my house and to forget he had a father. The only thing worse than Julio's reaction was Peter's, of course. He went through a hard depression. He kept asking how could his own brother do that to him. He needed to be committed twice. Once after trying to off himself. Let me tell you all something. The only thing worse than seeing your child in pain, it's seeing them covered in blood after they try to take their own life. There was so much blood. Julio wasn't doing well either. He blamed himself for his brother's reaction. Me and my wife had to muster strength. We didn't even knew we had to help our children. When Peter was discharged from the psychiatric hospital, we decided to take the 2 of them to live with us for some time. That was 2 years for Julio and 3 for Peter. We quit our hobbies and would switch who would go to the business and would stay with the boys. Julio refused to leave his brother's side. He wouldn't even let Peter go to the bathroom alone. We tried to talk to him, but his answer was the mirror can be used for cutting. Or he could hang himself in the shower. Or even he could drown himself in the shower. We stopped trying to reason with them, because we knew they weren't doing well. Things got even worse when my stupid brother told Peter that Luke and Maria had gotten married. Peter had a major crisis and Julio wouldn't sleep for 3 days so he could watch his brother. We hid every single object that could be used to cut, drill or hang. For 3 months we didn't have a single knife in the house and my shoes with laces would go from my feet straight to the safe. Well, that was a rough patch. But we made it. Gradually, Peter was getting himself together and Julio was becoming less paranoid. They both did a lot of therapy. In fact, the whole family did. They'd gone back for their jobs. They'd gone back for their lives. And I'd gone back to dance class. As far as I knew, they both never wanted to see Luke again. And we didn't hear much from him nor seen him since apparently he had left the state. That was until 10 days ago, the day before New Year's Eve, when Peter brought him to my house. He said he had forgiven him and we could all be a family again. I guess maybe that was his option to forgive him. But I just couldn't. I started sobbing like a little baby. As a matter of fact, I think the last time I cried like that, maybe that I cried at all, was when I was a little baby. I had to use all my strength to say I can't and tried to run away for there. But I think I passed out after the 3rd or 4th step. I woke up. Not sure how long after, and everybody was standing around me like a bunch of hungry vultures. I couldn't hear a word they were saying. It's like the whole world went silent and everything was happening so slow. After a while, I was feeling better. But part of me wished I was still passed out so I didn't have to deal with what came next. Everyone was staring at me, and it wasn't only because they were worried that I had passed out. They were worried about what I had to say. Luke asked what I meant by I can't. So I asked them for some time alone with Luke. I thought of lying to him, but I also knew that was the wrong thing to do. He deserved to know the truth. And I told him. I told him he was my greatest disappointment. He was capable of betraying his own brother like that. I mean, that is something you don't do to anybody, much less your own family. I never thought someone I loved could be capable of such a heinous act. I never thought someone I had raised could do such an awful thing. Had I failed that bad as a father? Did I not teach any morals? I told him I could no longer look at him the same way. And then, he said something I really wish he hadn't. He said he was still my son. And I looked away with tears in my eyes. He asked if I no longer see him as my son. And I tried to tell him he didn't need to know everything. But he yelled for me to tell him the truth. So I did. I told him that when I saw him, when I thought of him, I no longer saw my son. All I saw was somebody I despised. Someone disgraceful. And I might have said I was disgusted by him too. I'm not sure. Then it was his turn to sob and run. Maybe I was too harsh on him. Maybe I could try harder to forgive him. I mean, his brother already did. But I can't change how I feel. I talked to my sons and my wife. And I told them what happened. I apologized to Peter. I told him it was a very noble gesture of him. But I told him he didn't have to force it for any reason if he wasn't really ready. And I told him I was not. I talked to my wife and she told me she understood my feelings. But she thought I was too harsh. But she agreed with me for the most part. Should I try harder to forgive him or something like that? I don't want it to look like I'm favoring one son. I mean, I really don't think that's what I'm doing. We just suffered so much through the last 5 years. I'm not ready to get over all that has happened. Maybe it's wrong of me to blame everything on Luke. But it was his action that caused it all. Maybe I'm just trying to blame him for everything because I don't want to recognize my own blame? I don't know. Maybe I'm just rambling now. So. Am I the butthole for not forgiving him ever though his brother has?